Hello everyone, I'm Holly by the way, in case nobody knew. In today's video I'm going to be talking about what I do to stop having a meltdown. Because if you didn't know, I'm autistic, but this video can relate to many different things, like people with anger problems, ADHD, autism. A lot of different people will be able to relate to this video. So you don't just have to be autistic to watch this. Just saying. Anyway, if you like this video, please like, comment and subscribe to my channel for more videos like this. Let's get started. First thing that I'm going to talk about is that it is very important for you to know what gets you triggered. Like, as a child, I didn't know this. I didn't know my triggers as a child. Therefore, my tantrums, that's what I called them back then. Now I'd call them a meltdown. We used to just call them a tantrum when I was a child, but now it's a meltdown. So my tantrum as a child were very frequent because I didn't know what it was that set me off. So for me, change is a massive thing for me that can cause a meltdown. Or if you say something, you gotta do it or I will have a meltdown. Maybe not as much now because I've not really grown out of it, but I do want to relate back to when I was a child because I know that a lot of parents with children are going to be watching this video. So I do want to relate back to when I was younger. So change would be like a massive thing for me. One example of when I had a meltdown would be when I went to a bonfire with my dad and my granddad, and my dad specifically told me, we don't have to go until fireworks finished. So I was obviously waiting for the fireworks to finish, watching the fireworks like any child, and my dad said, we've got to go now. It was a school night, I do understand that. Well, I didn't understand that, to be fair, because he did say wait until it's finished and the fireworks were still going off. And I had a full-on meltdown because he was literally like, the fireworks are finished while they were still going off in the sky. I'm like, I'm deaf, not blind. Like, what? Yeah, I had a full-on meltdown, and I think because my granddad at that point had never seen me like that because he didn't live with me, and I had it in public. It's just one of them days that just go down in history because of how I reacted to him saying that we could stay till the end and we didn't. So that's one example of a meltdown when I was a child. And I'm not going to say that was a tantrum because it was quite severe. I actually tried to jump out of the car while it was moving. I don't really know if I should say that, but I'm going to say it anyway, and because I want people to know how severe it can be if these meltdowns aren't contained. So yeah, that's what I tried to do. So it sounds stupid to me now, but it really wasn't stupid. I don't know. Yeah. But anyway, that's one example. Now, I wouldn't say just one change would set me off in a tantrum. Now it's lots of different things that can bother me, and then if something then changes, then that's just it. It's like it's just literally like the tip of, it's like a kettle. That's how I'm going to describe it. It's like a kettle and it's like boiling and then it just literally just explodes. I don't know if a kettle's the right example, but we're just going to go with it. So yeah, for example, something that happened not recently, I'd say when I was about 15, 14, I was very upset about something at school. I was going through a lot at school at that age, and I had Nutella on toast every day for breakfast. So I got up one morning, there were no Nutella, and I had a full-on tantrum, and I remember throwing glass on the floor and it ruined the floor. And that was it was because I kind of stopped doing that at that age. I stopped, just things like that still bothered me, but I'd never react in a meltdown. So it was clear to me that there was actually something else going on. Well, it wasn't clear to me, it was clear to my mum that it wasn't all just about the fact that we have no Nutella and I have Nutella on toast for breakfast every morning. It's usually something else as well. For me, anyway. I just want to say this is all related to me, what helps me, it might not help you or your daughter or son or whatever. This is what helps me and what I noticed were my triggers. So what happens with me, usually now, I get overwhelmed. So there's lots of different things, whether there's some change going on, there's some problems at school, I'm feeling really out of control because I'm a bit of a control freak. I have to control everything. I have to plan things carefully. I have to have control over my diet. I have to have like calorie control, essentially. I am very obsessed with calories, and if something goes wrong that day or if I go over, then that'll stress me out. If I'm not on top of my work, that'll stress me out. So a number of things that can lead to a meltdown. So you need to know what things can cause a meltdown. That's very important. Also, another important thing is to know the signs before a meltdown. I usually behave differently before a meltdown. For example, I'm very snappy. I will snap at my mum for no reason. I get really hot before a meltdown. So my mum can usually tell for me because I'm like hot and I get really bothered. I have to go change my clothes. I have to put on some shorts and a t-shirt, and she can usually tell in that way. And I tidy. This is a big thing. If I'm ever stressed about something, or I usually tidy my wardrobe or clear out my wardrobe and throw all my stuff away, and or clear the stuff out that I don't wear anymore, or whatnot. I tidy everything. I organise as a way of helping myself get control over a situation, because now when I have the tantrums, I keep calling them tantrums, the meltdowns. I used to call them a tantrum when I was a child, that's why I keep referring them to a tantrum, but it's not, it's a meltdown. Usually my meltdowns are due to lack of control over something. So I tidy it as a way of getting control over a situation. So my mum recognises these signs. I reckon I'm growing up now and I'm starting to realise them for myself. And what we tried to do at this point is we tried to de-escalate the situation from getting into a full-blown meltdown. So I'd say these different things can come an hour, 2 hours before one. It depends, it varies. So yeah, what we tried to do to de-escalate the situation is we tried to solve all the problems one by one. So I'd have, let's say I've gone over on my calories, or I've got too much work, we'd plan a schedule for work, we'd for example, plan what I was going to eat tomorrow or what I was going to eat the day after, or it usually involves planning. I sometimes do it with my mum, sometimes I can do it on my own. Other ways that I can do is I try to go to sleep. I've noticed that sometimes if it's not that bad, if it's not as severe, sometimes I could not just go to sleep. It's not quite as easy as that. But if it's not as severe, then if I go to sleep and when I wake up, it's not as bad. So yeah, my mum will sometimes take me out of the environment that I'm in, go for a drive, something like that, try and take me out somewhere. My mum will sometimes go get me some chocolate. Food really helps me. I'm like obsessed with food. Thing is, I'm one or the other. I'm obsessed with calorie counting, but I'm also obsessed with food. It just depends what the issue is. Sometimes I need to control my diet, sometimes I need food, and that can help. My mum will sometimes run me a bubble bath. And more or not, I'll usually do nothing that night, switch off for the whole night, and just sit downstairs with my mum and my stepdad and just sit with them for the night and watch something that I want to watch to try and take my mind off it. Or sometimes I will watch telly on my own, but for a little bit, but then go downstairs. Telly for me is a way for me to switch my mind off. puts me in a different world. I've also noticed listening to music helps as well, but that's been recent for me. I didn't do that as a child, but now listening to music, it takes my mind off things as well. So this is what helps to try and de-escalate this tantrum, meltdown, but that's not always possible. So I'm going to talk about why, like what to do in the case of a meltdown. So if you've tried everything to de-escalate it, it doesn't work, what my mum would usually do, because my mum usually knows, she'll just de-escalate it. Sometimes it doesn't work, and then I will have a tantrum. I will most likely smash up things, smash up my room. I can't say this enough. Try not, and it's going to be so hard, try not to stop them, if you're a parent watching this, try not to stop them once they've started having a meltdown, because for me, I remember as a child when my parents once tried to pin me down in a meltdown, like when I was trashing things up, and they tried to pin me down. It was a very traumatic experience for both me and my parents. My parents are traumatized by it. I remember physically I would have never automatically physically gone to hurt them, but I remember pushing them, biting them, hitting them, and they said I was literally traumatized. It was a very traumatizing experience, but I would never have automatically gone to do that. I always smash up things, and you've got to remember, things are just things are replaceable. Do you know what I mean? And by them, because they read in a book somewhere about autism to apply pressure, put pressure on them to stop them from having it. It just made me 10 million times worse. The tantrum it lasted a lot longer, and it didn't work at all. So if you want my advice on what worked for me, don't do that. However, it might work for your child, but I would not advise doing it. I really wouldn't, because my mum swore she would never do that again. Another thing is shouting at the child won't help. You can't, it's not something that you can just stop. So if you shout at your child to tell them to stop doing it, they're not going to stop because they can't help doing it in the first place. It's something that they can't help doing, and I certainly can't help doing it. Once I've gone, I've gone. It's a switch, and it's just, you click the switch and you're just gone, and no one can get in the way. If my mum was to shout at me, or even before the meltdown, shout at me, or if I was starting to get stressed and see that the stress was building up, if she was to then argue with me about something, let's say she'd done something to start like annoying me, or something that had caused me starting to have a meltdown, and she didn't understand what she'd done and then was to start arguing, that would cause a meltdown. Or at least for me, it does. When I have a meltdown, this is typically what happens. I turn my room upside down basically, but then as soon as I finish doing that, I cry. I literally just break down. I can't breathe. It's more like a panic attack. I can't breathe. I'm shaking. I'm crying uncontrollably. Mostly because I feel so bad about what I've just done. That is why I do it. And at that point, my mum knows that it's not something that I'm meant to do. I just couldn't stop. I couldn't help myself. And in a way, it does help. When I trash my room, it really helps me. It helps me get everything out that I've been having cooped up, like in my body. Like, it helps me get all that energy out. So what my mum would then do is comfort me, because I'm so upset, and and she would try and, like, she'll hug me, as a child, she used to rock me after, obviously not now because I'm bigger than her, so it doesn't really work like that anymore, but yeah, because I feel so bad, she wants to comfort me. That's the best advice I can give, is after a meltdown, don't argue, don't shout, and don't punish them, because it's really not their fault. this is if you're a parent watching this. If my mum hadn't have done the stuff that she has done for me after a meltdown, it would have lasted so much longer, and I would have been so upset, because I get very depressed after a meltdown, very depressed. So it's not just this crying, but I mean like for hours after a meltdown I get depressed. So my mum needs to bring me back up, or I will literally enter a depressive state. As a child, I could say that it was one every month at least. Now the actual meltdown I'd say is one every 6 months. Before the meltdown, a meltdown brewing I'd say happens once every month. I'd say it usually happens when I'm on my period. Yeah, that's when it usually happens now. It usually happens once a month when I'm on my period, or before my period, just before my period. So if you're a girl and you're going through that stage, that is one of my signs. I have severe PMT. I've tried going on the pill, it didn't work. So just, yeah, what can you do? I've kind of gone over everything I wanted to talk about. This is what happens with me and what helps me, and the biggest thing is 100% planning and food and supportive parents. That is what helps me. So I've kind of gone on for a really long video again, but I think this video needed to be quite long, to be fair. If you like this video, please like, comment and subscribe to my channel. If you want to see any more videos like this, let me know what in the comment section below. And yeah, I hope this video was somewhat educational, or helped you know what triggers you or anything. If this background has been annoying you, it's been very yellow, just please ignore it. I've not got lighting at the moment. So yeah, and by the way, go follow me over on my Instagram, because I'm a lot more active and I might put question boxes up of what you want to know. So go follow me over there, which I will find a way to link somewhere. Yeah, see you later.